Uh-oh. The double gas. You really like this double gas. Hey, it looks like you might be okay. You might be able to spend this much gas. Kind of a weird double reactor core, double gas. This is the same build you're using in TVT, and it leaves you crazy vulnerable for the first 8 minutes. You end up at 8 minutes with only a $900 army, but luckily in TVZ, you're not going to get punished for that nearly as often as you will in TVT. You still will occasionally get punished. And even with a full wall-in, he can take 5 banelings, pop here, run in with lings and banelings, and completely mop you up, because you have a $1,600 army at 9 minutes. So, you know, you have to get more than one bunker, you need to have a secondary wall-in. There's all sorts of precautions you need to make in order to make this a valid build, because the way it is, it's just not valid. It doesn't give you nearly enough army early on. But that's okay. That's okay, because, you know, as long as this isn't one of the specific games where you got punished for making these mistakes, good enough. So that was terrible. You shouldn't really be making a push at his natural at 13 minutes with pure marine. That doesn't make any sense, right? The idea of the 10-minute marine poke at his third is that, first of all, his third is very far from his natural. So you'll tend to be able to knock down the hatchery before he can really get his troops together in a ball and ready to push. Second, at 10 minutes, he's not going to have any infestors. He's rarely going to have too many banelings, and he's not going to have mutas yet. You know, you're attacking just before the timing when he gets his higher tier units. And finally, most Zergs are going to get a crap ton of workers in the first 8 minutes and then make nothing but army from there. So this guy got his crap ton of workers at... Okay, so right now, he's got his crap ton of workers, basically. So at 9 minutes, there's no real need for him to make workers. So he's basically just going to produce army almost exclusively from now on. Army and tech. So here comes 28 lings, just 2 drones at a time, 7 banelings, lots of tech. And now at 11 minutes he's adding some more drones. Anyway, you saw at 8 minutes his entire army spending was 800, and at 10 minutes his entire army spending is pretty frickin' low, whatever it is. So a couple seconds before 10 minutes, it's still 800. So this is the idea of the 10-minute push. You push out at 9 minutes, you get there at 10 minutes, you fight his $800 army with your $3,000 army, and you just utterly stomp it, and then he makes a huge army and pushes you back, and you say, oh, well, at least I killed the hatchery, and now he's on 2 base versus my 2 base, and Terran 2 base is way better than Zerg 2 base, and good times are had by all. So this push of yours was completely stupid. You had 3 medevacs, and you pushed with pure marine. Don't ever do that. It doesn't make any sense. Also, upgrades are so crucial. Attack upgrades are especially crucial in TVZ. Armor upgrades are good against lings, and they're cool and everything, but attack upgrades are where the real ball of wax comes in. You never want to be fighting with less than 100% of your army in the first big fight. You want every single troop you have to be part of that first battle. Also, your positioning was really terrible. He basically only has a maximum of 3 fungals, and you have crap ton. That's how many. You got 24 plus 8 is 32, 33 marines at this frontal push. So all you need to do is spread your marines out over enough area that he can only hit 5 or so with each fungal, and then he'll hit 15 of your 33 marines with fungals, and the other 15 of them won't have been fungaled, and good things will happen. So giant ball, really bad. Blech, explodes, you know? And this is part of why you never really want to just be attacking him. What you want to do is set your guys up in a scary position. On this map, I tend to spread my guys across this area and spread another group of guys across this area, and then take like 8 marines and stim up and start hitting the hatchery itself. And as soon as he attacks into me, I retreat, and then he runs into my giant group of dudes. And if he tries to get a big flanking attack running around this side and attacking into me, all of these guys in the backfield are already pre-spread, so he can't use fungals or banelings to his best effect. And so that's what I like to do. But you never really want to take your whole army and put it right here, because then it's just gonna die. You never want your whole army to be attacking a single hatchery, or going near hatcheries, or going on to creep like that at all. Just going anywhere near his area of effect crap is just silly. So that was a really bad trade for you, and it didn't need to be, because you have all these medevacs back home, and you're just like, I'm going to throw away half my Marines right before I plan to make a real push. Oh, don't do that. I still remember good old Mr. Fender. So now you're throwing down 3 additional starports and some racks. This is great. I'm glad that you're throwing down additional buildings. But you don't really want to get 4 that many starports. It feels like 4 starports, one of them with a reactor. That's going to require a whole lot of gas. You're still on a single engineering bay. Pure Marine does not work without a crap ton of upgrades. So I do want you to get 2 engineering bays. I just want you to use them, man. In the mech, the biomech build that Nick and I used to do, we go with a single engineering bay and we just get attack upgrades. And that works for biomech, because you don't really need the armor upgrades, because you don't want people to be hitting your Marines in the first place. You want them to be hitting your tanks and your Thors and your Hellions. But in a much more Marine medevac-centric build, you do need that armor to be able to trade evenly with Lings. You've got a crap ton of workers, but they're not really spread out super well. You've got 4 mules going and a good income. Your main's going to run out soon. You've got a couple of patches that are already running out at your main, but a couple of other patches that are still 600 away. And there's no 4th even on the way. It gets difficult to be constantly taking new bases while constantly being aggressive, and there's this temptation to mature your infrastructure and to stay back and really keep producing Marines while keep worrying about how to, your supply depots and where you're putting your SCVs and all this kind of stuff. And then you look up and suddenly you're at 200 unit space and you're like, oh crap, I really should have made like 3 attacks before now. That was a really dumb move of him. From him, that's what I meant. Anyway, this is just not nearly aggressive enough. Hey Gwenny, how's it going? Is Cheyenne gonna come over, or when? How do you know she's gonna?
Because yesterday she said she was gonna.
Here, you ask her. Say, is Daddy supposed to pick you up, or do you have a ride? Making 4 starports is crazy expensive. It's $250 a starport on top of the cost of the tech labs, and if you're not going to keep them constantly occupied, it's just a big waste of money. And you can't really. You just don't have the gas on 3 bases. You need 4 or 5 bases to support that many starports. And even then, I mean, I never really go past 3 usually until really late. Even more importantly, I can tell that you know that you should be pre-spreading. Like, this looks like somebody who took some time to attempt to pre-spread, but look at how you did it. That's almost 24 Marines in a single Baneling splash radius. And this is, a crap ton. You want 5 Marines in each little box. And the more Marines you get, the harder splitting is, too. Like, with 69 Marines, it's a lot harder to split than 12. I mean, with 12 Marines, to put them in groups of 5, you only need to do 2 things. But with 70, you need to do frickin' 14 things, so it takes forever. Which is why patrol spreading is so cool. This passivity is really bugging me. Even considering making a drop at this point is bugging me. Because you have a giant army, you have a lot of upgrades. This is an army that you want to trade. You want to take your big army and go patrol spread it right here along this giant area and say, I'm very close to your 3rd, I'm very close to your 4th, you want to attack me. And if you do that, he will attack you. So do it, and then when he attacks into you, he can't get good fungals, he can't get good Baneling splashes because of your pre-spreading, and you just rip him up. So you need a much more aggressive posture, and you need to be, much more active with your Marines, and that's the whole idea of Marines. Also, you don't have the ability to make enough Marines. I know you started with 3 Raxes, and it was spending all your money, and then you threw down 2 more just to be responsible. You're like, I'm getting close to 200 unit space, I should get some more buildings. But it's not enough, you know? You need at least 7 Rexes. I keep looking at this oversaturating main and wanting to comment on how oversaturated it is, but you don't have anywhere else to put SCVs, and that's because you're not even trying to take a 4th. You need to be, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, now he's got Ultra Infestor Baneling and you lose. So watching the rest of this game is just silly. Basically, it's just like in TVT. You need to be aggressive enough with your opening to make it make any sense whatsoever. Just making a bunch of Marines and keeping them at home, it's silly. It's silly. You can't make a bunch of anything and leave it at home in TVZ because there's no Terran army that can do well against a Tier 3 Zerg. And it's the same with TVP. If he gets all of the Tier 3 stuff he wants, he wins. You just can't beat him. So you have to do something during the early game. You have to be making upgraded Marines and trading them like you were in the previous game. So doing this drop was completely ridiculous. Again, it's just like in that TVT. You have a 200 unit space army. I mean, it's essentially 200 unit space because you refuse to make additional supply depots. So you're maxed out, and you're like, okay, what should I do? Well, I don't want to attack him because I'm afraid. Well, don't be afraid, first off. But second, even if you are afraid, making a little dinky drop is completely silly. What did she say? What? You pushed off? Did anyone answer? No, no one answered. Do you want to try again? They said that their phone doesn't always work at their house. So we might have to go over there and ask. But it's raining. Full mule energy on this command center and this command center. Just hitting max unit space and getting 5,000 minerals and stuff, it's not really acceptable in TVZ. Because late game Zerg armies will just rip us to shreds. So yeah, be more aggressive. Done with this game. Boop. I'm going to find out whether you won or lost by looking at the name of the replay. Right. TVZ lost, 4,000. TVZ win! Final game. You have to leave a message. Just say, this is Gwenny, I want to play with Cheyenne. Alright. Good girl, that was perfect. Alright, go put on your shoes and get a raincoat. Do you have a raincoat and an umbrella?
Yes.
Alright, get those things.
I don't have an umbrella, but I have a
Alright, well put your raincoat on and I'll take you over. I'm almost done with this. So, 1 Rax Fast Expand is unable to put any pressure, do any early pressure to the Zerg, which I dislike, but with the upgraded green range, it's kind of hard to do early pressure anyway, so whatever. Our goal is going to be to make a big push early enough that it prevents him from getting 72 workers long before us, or to 3OC and get 72 workers of our own by, like, I don't know, 11 minutes, 12 minutes? Since you're not 3OCing, you have to be planning to prevent him from fully saturating his third. And it looks like you're going to do that by making a giant Marine medevac push. I like that this time you actually took your whole army with you instead of just making 2 separate, smaller pushes. I dislike how not spread out your stuff is. I feel like we're gonna see shortly whether you're capable of in-combat splitting. But it's nice to... At 10 minutes, you need to have a turret here and a turret here. You don't want to make turrets everywhere because most Zergs don't make mutas anymore, but you have to have at least one. And if you have one, you can surround it with SCVs and repair it, and then he can do damage over here, but he can't do damage in your mineral line. He wastes a ton of banelings on your tank. Your army is just in a giant, terrible ball, but he kind of screws everything up and allows you to rip him to shreds. Oh, yeah, beautiful. I didn't like what you did there, but luckily it worked out, so I'm not going to harp too much on it. Basically, having all of your dudes in a giant ball is only going to work if he attacks you with some tiny fraction of his army. If he uses a reasonable number of banelings and lanes and stuff, that's just you're gonna get ripped to shreds. Yeah, and you're just gonna kind of walk in and kill him. It's cool. Again, the way you're fighting, it's very ball-centric, and ball-centric stuff doesn't work against infestors and banelings. I don't like it. But whatever, worked, so it's fine. Again, with this build, it's the same build, and you have exactly $950 at 8 minutes. It's just not very good. I don't like this build. And at 10 minutes, you've got 50 workers, which is awesome. 100 here. Again, you made 2 supply drops, just like last time. It kind of feels to me like you planned those supply drops as part of the build. And if you did, don't, because supply drops are terrible. And you're cutting it really close on supply depots too. I like to be really far ahead on depots. Better to be ahead than behind, I always say. So yeah, at 10 minutes you got 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. This is great. This is the first time this build has actually given you a reasonable army size at 10 minutes. I guess it's because you didn't make all those turrets like you'd done all the previous times. So let this be a lesson to you, man. Don't make panic turrets, and your build actually works. So this was much better. I'm surprised because it looked kind of wussy, but it was good. So at 11 minutes, you have another 1,000, and at 12 minutes you have another 1,000. So this is perfect. Even at 12 minutes, you have a great build. The Zerg has shown off the fact that by being a Zerg, he can always have a bigger army than you, even when you do a great job. But that's okay. I forgive him. Feng Tian. So he's doing a cut worker mass army build. And big vulnerability of cut worker mass army builds is that if you lose your first army, you can't make a second one because your income is crap. So he suicided a bunch of banelings into your tanks, made mutas, which are horrible units, and then kind of lost all of his stuff out in the middle. And he has no ability to make a second army because not only does he not have any larvae, but he also just doesn't have any money coming in because he didn't make any drones. So I liked your macro a lot better this time, and he won. What else can I say? So if you can do the build like that instead of the way you kept doing it in TVT, I think it might be a somewhat viable build in TVZ, but don't ever use that build in TVT, because an $800 army or $950 army at 8 minutes is just going to get you killed. You could do something very similar, but without the reactor cores. Use that first 100 gas that you're using on reactor cores, instead use it to get stim. And then you don't need to have 4 gas geysers and stuff, so try to do a build that gives you stim by 8 minutes. The earliest you can get stim is 6 minutes, right? If you go 12 racks, 13... No, wait. If you go... Let me think. 12 racks, 13 gas, you can get stim by 6.5 minutes. If you go gas first, you can get stim by 6 minutes. You don't need stim by 6.5 minutes or 6 minutes. I'm just saying that's the earliest you can get it. So if the earliest you can get it is 6.5 minutes, getting it by 7.5 minutes doesn't seem like too big of a stretch, right? You can take a slightly later gas and still get it by 7.5 minutes. So do this same kind of opening, but your first 100 gas should be stim. Just get stim started as soon as frickin' possible, or combat shields. It's up to you. And then try to have 30 Marines. 30 Marines by 8 minutes. Find a build that gives you 30 Marines and stim by 8 minutes. that has you well on your way towards medevacs and do that build, right? So, bam. I like to 4 racks. I like to 5 racks. The problem with the double reactor build is not only do you not end up with stim or combat shields by 8 minutes, which is silly, but you also end up with super small marine count because you're putting reactors on those Raxes and making the Raxes super late, and you just never really start making marines until super late. So the build I use is I need to take Gwenny to Cheyenne's house, but let's see if we can find the last TVT I played. Do 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 do. Well, Nick's TVT should be just as good. So it's Depot Racks, Depot Command Center gas, I think. No, wait, no gas. Depot Racks, Depot Command Center, Racks, Depot, Orbital, 4th Racks, Tech Lab, Gas, Tech Lab, Stim. It's like that. You ready? Alright, I'll take you now. Give me a second. I gotta actually start the upload of these things. So, let's see, at 8 minutes, instead of $950 with no completed upgrades, he's got $1,200 with no completed upgrades. So, this is why Nick and I also tend to lose to Banshee tank pushes, and I bet this is an example of Nick losing to a Banshee tank push. Yes, it is. Oh, but he survives. He does okay. Anyway, point is, have lots of Marines and be ready to kick some butt at 8 minutes. Nick actually did the exact same thing as you. He ended up with like 1,000 plus some turrets. So that was a bad example. Anyway, I gotta take Gwenny. Blah, blah.